Hey everybody, for your week 4 Management 451 process flow assignment, I want to give you a little bit of assistance. I am putting a template out there that's actually created by the American Society for Quality, ASQ. It's just to help you with the process flow assignment. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but for a lot of people, they've never done a process flow assignment, or even if you have done one, usually you have a template maybe at work that you use. So this can come in place for that. It's actually pretty easy to use template. You don't have to download and use Microsoft Visio or anything. It's actually using Microsoft Excel. So you can see it here on the screen. I'm going to walk you through the template briefly. And then again, you can use it if you want to. You don't have to, but just make sure that you are essentially creating an actual process flow. The number one mistake I've seen on this assignment is people don't create a process flow and instead they just write some sentences and such. So you'll lose needless points. If you do want to use this template, feel free to keep watching this video. So as you can see here in the template, the uh, template already starts with some example steps in terms of a process flow. This is not specific to your assignment. This is just some samples that have already started there so you can start with it. But I want to walk through what each of these icons mean. So you can see here on the left, the American Society for Quality already labels them for you. The first icon is this one that looks kind of like an oval, right, on the upper left. And that's the start end icon. So you can see here in the sample they gave, where receiving the order is how our process flow begins, and then completing the order is how it ends. Now, this start end one is necessary because without it, you can't technically enter the flow and you can't exit the flow. But you can have more than one start or end, right? You can end for multiple reasons. You might reject the client and the client leaves, and that could be, one of your ends. You just have to think of it as how that customer enters your flow and how they exit it. You can have more than one entrance, you can have more than one exit, but you can't have no entrance and no exit, right? There needs to be some way for them to come in, some way for them to go out. And then these squares are the most frequent ones you're going to see in process flows. Those are the actual steps that are occurring, right? Like you can see here in the example, enter order and system, check credit, manually underwrite, ask for tax returns. Those are the steps that your employees or your systems are taking to help the customer with this flow, to sell your product or service, to do whatever it is this flow is trying to convey. And then the arrows, the little lines with the arrows, those are the connectors. And the arrows imply the flow that you're going, right? So you can see here again in the sample, you can see the flow, right? We're going through that particular flow and then we loop back down. Now, these little diamonds, those are called decision diamonds. Now, decision diamonds are very special in process flows because they imply a decision needs to happen, right? When you have a decision diamond, you need at least two different decisions that come out. Usually it's just two, but some people can do more than two, but usually just two. Like you can see an example here from American Society for Quality. It's just like, okay, yes, no, but it doesn't always have to be a yes, no question, right? So it can be approve, approve, decline, or you could even just say approve question mark, yes, no, if you want to stick with the yes, no nomenclature. But you notice that there has to be two different paths that occur when you have a decision diamond. Otherwise, it's not a decision diamond, it's just a process step, right? So, and it's okay if those paths diverge and then come back together again, right? But the point is, like with the decision diamond, you need some divergence, right? So something's occurring. We're asking somebody to choose a path. Like let's say if you're in a grocery store, and now there's a decision diamond about uh, type of checkout, manual, self checkout. Right? Those are two different paths, right? Manual means you're going to go in the line, you're going to wait for an employee to check you out, and then self checkout is you're going to a kiosk, right? So those are two different paths, and afterwards you ultimately come back together again, right? The two paths can reconverge when you're exiting or you're, receipt, obtain your receipt. It's okay if you diverge and then merge back into the flow. But temporarily there's a divergence, right? Because if you're going down the path or somebody's checking you out, you're essentially putting all the groceries there and that employee is running all the processing. But if you do the self checkout, you're doing all the processing, right? So you have to click and everything. You have to look up your onions. You have to put in the coupons, right? Versus a employee where you're just giving them all that information and all you do at the end is pay. So once you pay and get your receipt, you can see the paths merge back again. Uh, Now this circle is interesting. It's called a flowchart link. It's really a way to try to keep your process flow from not getting too messy. So sometimes, if we just keep flowing out without it, it can get very confusing and convoluted. There are times when, we might reject something and we want the flow to go back, or, whatever occurs is too many branches starting to occur in the flow. So you'll see in this example, the American Society for Quality said, okay, is this particular order okay? No, refuse the order, but that's not necessarily the stop here. So this refuse the order is almost like a to be continued. That circle is like a to be continued, so you can start the flow again at a different step, and then it continues without making it all, crowded and such. So here it's saying to be continued, and then on the top you'll notice refuse order begins again. And then you'll see here, okay, discuss a referral. We couldn't do your business here at our place, but maybe we can get you somewhere else where, we still get a little bit of money from it, get a little piece of action, but, they might be able to help you. Like, perhaps like, this flow, just an example, like a subprime lender or whatever, just someone else. Like, we can't sell you a car here, but we know a used car dealership that we do business with, and we can refer you to them. And then there's a few different steps there, and then complete order. So you notice that it's a nice, clean way to kind of branch it out and do a to be continued. Otherwise, this one that looks like a tilted square, otherwise known as a parallelogram, that's actually an input-output. So you don't always need to have these, but like if you have a particular process step that requires certain inputs, it's a good one to call out if you want to make sure that you're making that clear to whoever's reading your process flow. So in this example, in order for us to run a credit check, we need your credit history, right? In order for us to I guess you could say, other inputs and outputs, like, in order for you to buy a house, you need to provide your income, right? Statements and such, right? So you could see like income information being put there. And then there's another kind of version of it, which is a square that looks like it's ripped at the end. That's a document. So sometimes like receipt, right? Like from a grocery store at the end, you get a receipt. So you would see receipt as a document there. Or here, if we run your credit, we can print out the credit report and we can give it to you. It doesn't always have to be a hard copy, it can be a soft copy. Or going back to buying a house, or even here in the manual credit check, we might request your tax return. So, you need to send us your tax return information, and that can be a document. So this is just to try to give you an overview of this template in hopes that you find it helpful. You can see again it has a sample. Also for our class, I've included an example for a process flow that was created around Uber Eats. It's just an example. It's not necessarily meant to be one that you have to follow that exact steps. But you'll notice in the Uber Eats example, it walks through a process flow using this template. It was just the once it was created, it was copied and pasted into a PowerPoint slide just to make it cleaner to view. And it shows the whole process of like, I order my Uber Eats, I check to see if I like what I ordered, do I want a drink? You'll notice those kind of flows in there, and the decision diamonds are taking you in those steps. Once the order came back, was it accurate? No. Then how do I want to reorder it, or do I just want a refund? Or yes, it was accurate, then enjoy, leave my review. So that uh, example is out in the week one assignment as well, just to help you. Because I know for some people, building a process flow might be your first time, or this might be your millionth time, but you still wouldn't mind a refresher. So hopefully this video helps a little bit. Hopefully that example helps a little bit. And I have another YouTube video out there that is very brief and also talks about process flows. Um, Again, make sure, for your process flow assignment, you have an actual process flow chart. If it's just words, you'll lose points needlessly, and that's a shame. And then also, in addition to the process flow chart, you are going to need paragraphs explaining your process flow. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email or attend our weekly Zoom session. Otherwise, again, I hope you found this helpful. I'll see you soon.